Hello Chloe, hello Ida. So recently a channel that we follow called The School of Life posted a video called Why Good Societies Are Pessimistic. And I think I disagree with just about every point the guy tries to make in this video. I considered many ways of formatting my argument against this video. I thought about leaving a long comment, I thought about going very broadly over why I disagree with it, but rather than being broad or clipping the video and basically uploading their video with my commentary, I would much rather do a little bit of a show for you all. So what I'm going to do is that over here I will be in this red shirt and speaking my side of the argument, and on this side I will regurgitate the main points of the video in a much higher low testosterone voice as to sound more stuck up and snooty. At the core of pessimism is the idea that everyone, however outwardly normal, is severely flawed, short-term, blinkered, vengeful, sentimental, and prone to reckless anger, fear, delusion, and passion. You know, I would actually agree that the human mind is in fact given to things like vengeance and passion and reckless anger and fear and delusion. However, I would also argue that these are not necessarily bad things. Some actions demand vengeance in order for justice to be served. Anger is a rational response to horrible things happening. Fear keeps you alive. Even delusion can serve as a coping mechanism. As difficult as it is to admit, delusion can serve as a coping mechanism to get past shitty situations. From a brutal acceptance of this dark starting point, there can flow a range of measures that together will make for exceptionally wise, calm, and reasonable societies. Well, you kind of shot yourself in the foot here, because all I really need to do is prove that your measures are unwise, uncalm, and unreasonable, and then I'm done. Not really, that wouldn't be addressing the argument in actuality, but you can see that by kind of narrowly defining your metric of value for your argument and your beliefs, that it's kind of easy to kick that out from under you. In an ideally pessimistic society, rather boring and extremely steady politicians are the norm. No one believes the wilder utopian promises of firebrand leaders. The electorate is simply far too pessimistic to trust in easy, rapid solutions to any of the nation's substantial problems. Hang on, if society is full of people and politicians and policymakers that are all short-term, blinkered, sentimental, etc., why would they believe that anybody could solve the problems? It doesn't seem like any society or any system satisfies the desires of somebody who, before even considering the individuality of a person, decides that they must be prone to reckless anger, fear, delusion, and whatnot. Because pessimists know just how flawed any one individual can be, the ideal pessimistic society invests heavily in strong, slow-moving, independent institutions that prevent too much power from ever falling into the hands of a single person. Furthermore, these institutions are insulated from the fluctuations of public opinion, which, pessimistically, are seen as being hugely prone to hysteria and overreaction. This is one of those paragraphs that makes me want to just make a 2-second video where I just flip the camera off and say citation needed, and that's my whole response to the argument. Because what institution satisfies this definition of being strong, slow-moving, and independent, while at the same time not having too much power? And again, we run into the problem of these institutions necessarily being run by people. And if we still believe that people are prone to negative attributes like, you know, anger and passion and such, then won't these institutions have to be angry and passionate? Or at least that's the presumption that we started with, so why not? Because they assume it's natural to have rather dangerous appetites and desires, the citizens of a pessimistic society willingly put quite a lot of restraints on themselves, defining freedom not as the ability to do whatever they want at any point, but as the liberty to act in accordance to their wisest, most reasonable selves, which only appear every now and then. They therefore don't see it as any particular loss of freedom to be gently nudged away from blowing their savings, overeating, doing no exercise, ruining their relationships, or developing addictions. They accept a paternalistic society as the natural price for limiting their own self-destructive tendencies. Now, originally I was going to get all huffy and complain about how you basically advocate for the abridging of human rights and freedoms, but allow me to instead introduce you to a concept called the N+1 problem. Let's say you have a person that wants to blow all their savings, ruin their relationships, and get really fat. Well, you decide that you know how to live their life better than they do, so you start watching them and managing their shit for them and telling them what to do. Well, who watches you to make sure that you manage your shit? And then who watches that person who's watching you? Who regulates the regulators? Well, the problem is that it's always going to be another person, and we've already established that we believe people to be prone to being horrible or stupid or something that means that they cannot make decisions properly. So if we don't believe people can make decisions properly, what makes us think that we can be regulated by other people to make our decisions properly? You see, it's just a never-ending loop of who watches the Watchmen. Pessimistic societies don't have much time for celebrity culture, for they are dubious about whether anyone much deserves to be idolized. They know that from close up, we're all a bit of a mess, and they're not shocked by revelations of chaotic private lives, since this is assumed to be the norm. Spare energy is directed more towards forgiveness. What use does a pessimist have for forgiveness? Either you're going by the definition of forgiveness where you have faith in the other person to get better and to stop making the same mistakes over and over again, or it's forgiveness in the sense of you're just going to be patient with them and still care about them even if they fuck up and still tolerate their presence even if they misbehave. And in both cases, pessimism makes it sound completely useless because a pessimist can't believe that a person's going to get better. Their flaws are seated in their humanity. And if being human means being flawed, they can't prove that because they can't become less human. So that's right out the window. But on the other hand, just being patient with someone no matter how many times they fuck up is just a surefire way to just stay around toxic people. And so you're either doing something that you can't do by your own definition of your system of beliefs, or you're not doing anything. So what does it mean to forgive? It just makes it sound like you're trying to sound virtuous when you're just doing nothing. In pessimistic societies, the education system is elaborate, broad, ambitious, and very well resourced. Citizens assume that the raw human mind needs a huge amount of structured, targeted help in order to cope with life's challenges. The curriculum isn't merely focused on technical skills, though. There's a lot of help around emotional issues too, which, it's acknowledged, are at the root of so many of our tragedies. I would avoid saying that your education system is going to be very well resourced. You might actually have to start talking about what your policies will be if you're going to get into words like resources. More to the point though, I kind of don't want to touch this one too much because when I hear huge amount of structured targeted help, it definitely sounds like they're just talking about their beliefs. Like they will help children believe what they believe, that humans can't improve and they need government guidance in order to behave properly. And responding to these things too strongly just makes me sound like an easily dismissed right-wing reactionary, so I'll just address everything else and leave this to be an unsighted assertion. Because they acknowledge that we're all fragile, easily irked creatures, pessimistic societies place great emphasis on creating quietly uplifting and beautiful communal environments. Cities are marked by elegance, simplicity, rationality, and harmony. Oh, we're fragile and easily irked? I mean, it's true that we're physically fragile compared to the rest of the animal kingdom. We don't have the natural strength that a gorilla has, for instance. But if you're speaking just to our physical capabilities, that's pretty short-sighted, because humans climbed Mount Everest and gorillas didn't. Further, at some point this video became jerk-off fantasies for East Asian architecture. All you gotta do is watch the original video, and you'll see that basically what they're describing is Tokyo. And that's just cringe-inducing. In optimistic societies, there are constant claims that everyone can be exceptional, and, one day, awe-inspiringly successful. The charms and rewards of life are therefore fundamentally geared towards those who make it to the top. The best restaurants are superb, the private hospitals are outstanding, most expensive schools are magnificent, the richest residential areas delightful, the taxes for the rich very low. But, naively, such societies forget that, by statistical inevitability, most people actually are not going to be successful at all. Alright, you're pretty clearly talking about America here, so I'm going to address this in terms of America. What the fuck definition of success do you have that people in America can only be successful if they're like gazillionaire one-percenters? Fucking so many people, almost everybody has access to food, shelter, and clean running water. Is that not success? So, in the pessimistic society, Mediocrity and relative failure are assumed to be the norm, and the goal of government is understood to be that of rendering an average life, that is, the life most people will actually lead, as attractive as possible. Public housing, state schools, public hospitals, and transportation are all superb because it's assumed, with extreme realism, that we're almost all going to be relying on them. Oh, well, we're done playing around. He finally said government. You're kind of overplaying your hand there, aren't you? Because initially, it's just pretty disrespectful to assume that everybody's going to live an average life. A lot of people try real hard to make something of themselves, and saying that they are mediocre or failures is neglectful of their efforts, and their successes, by the way. I don't know if you noticed, but there are people who have accomplished things. I think you actually have noticed, because by the system that you describe, where you manage how people spend their money and live their lives, you seem to be trying to use this government to restrict people's ability to make something of themselves. And I'm not going to speculate the reasons as to why you would want such a totalitarian system, but I know that systems such as that are evil, systems such as that are incompetent, and systems such as that lead to huge famines and fuck-ups and always fail. Everybody who watched School of Life's video and is watching my video now, take a moment and think. What is the point in building a philosophy of how the world should be run based off the idea that people can't fucking do it? Why would you put money into a system of government run by wretched cretins? People that, by your definition of people, cannot function properly? Listen, I'm not arguing against charity programs, welfare programs, or social safety nets. All those things are immaterial to this discussion. I am purely arguing against the rhetoric that this video by the School of Life uses to reach those similar points. Because they don't come to the conclusion that a welfare program should exist through logic. They come to it through assertion and baseless speculation and philosophical moralizing that has nothing to do with reality. I hope that I was able to show that. I hope I was able to convince somebody that this idea that they once thought was true is not true. For right now, I think I'm satisfied with what I said. Chloe, Ida, I would love to hear what you all think. I will see you all next time.